Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We go back 72 years to October 27th, 1950, the story of Dr. Kildare, Lew-ayres and Lionel-barrymore reuniting from their times when they starred in Dr. Kildare motion pictures. Mr. Ling refusing leg surgery, and we thank you for tuning in. On this Sure Happy It's Thursday, this is the 27th day of October, the 300th day of 2022, 65 days till we get to 2023. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, founded on this date in 1682. The U.S. and Spain signing the Treaty of Madrid in 1795. That established the boundaries between Spanish colonies and the U.S. U.S. annexing the former Spanish colony of West Florida in 1810. In 1838, Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs issuing the extermination order that ordered all Mormons to leave the state. First New York City subway line opened in 1904. The system became the biggest in the U.S. and one of the biggest in the world. Mrs. Wallace Simpson filed for divorce in 1936. That would eventually allow her to marry King Edward VIII of the UK, thus forcing his abdication from the throne. In 1938, DuPont announced its new synthetic polyamide fiber would be called nylon. Debuting on this date on ABC Radio in 1947, the comedy quiz program, You Bet Your Life.
Here he is, the one, the only.
Well, here I am again with a chance for each of our couples to win up to $10,000. Congratulations, and thanks for being on the show. You Bet Your Life.
You Bet Your Life is transcribed in Hollywood. Produced by John Goodell. Directed by Robert Dwan and Bernie Smith. Music by Jack Meakin. This is George Fenneman reminding you to tune in again next week, same time, same station, to hear the one, the only Groucho.
Groucho Marx took a simple concept, wrote it for 13 years on radio and television, most of it with that other gentleman you heard, George Fenneman. But Groucho Marx and You Bet Your Life debuting on this date in 1947. In 1954, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. became the first African-American general in the Air Force. NASA launching the first Saturn I rocket in Mission Saturn, Apollo 1 in 1961. Singers Sonny and Cher wed on this date in 1964. Cher, of course, flouting tradition, wore bell-bottoms. No idea if they were white or not. Major Rudolph Anderson of the Air Force became the only direct human casualty of the Cuban Missile Crisis on this date in 1962 when his U-2 reconnaissance airplane shot down in Cuba by a Soviet-supplied SA-2 guideline surface-to-air missile. CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite devoted 2 segments to the Watergate scandal, making the story nationally known.
The episode grew steadily more sinister, no longer a caper, but the Watergate affair, escalating finally into charges of a high-level campaign of political sabotage and espionage, apparently unparalleled in American history.
As Washington Post executive editor Ben Bradley wrote about in the 2 segments in his autobiography, no new ground was broken, but the broadcast validated the Post's stories in the public's mind and gave us an immense morale boost. An October 27, 1997 mini crash of Wall Street and worldwide stock markets. The Dow plunged 554 points to 7161. For the first time, the New York Stock Exchange activated their circuit breakers twice during the day, eventually making the controversial move of closing the exchange early. A gunman opened fire on a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018, killing 6 and injuring 6, including 4 police officers. Among those passing away on this date in history, Xavier Cugat, actor Maury Amsterdam, very funny man. Rod Roddy, the TV announcer who followed the infamous and very famous Johnny Olson on The Price is Right. And you cannot deny that Roddy was a great announcer. He was. Lou Reed also passing away on this date. And Cary Grant's third wife, Betsy Drake, they starred on the radio program Mr. and Mrs. Blandings, Betsy Drake and Cary Grant, based on Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. They all passed away on this day. This is the birth date of Isaac Singer, one real so-and-so, if you catch my drift. President Teddy Roosevelt, also etiquette author Emily Post, actor Leif Erikson, Welsh poet Dylan Thomas, also actress Nanette Fabray, actress Ruby Dee, H.R. Haldeman of the Watergate incidents, pianist Floyd Kramer, and auto racer Dick Trickle, all passing away on this date. Do not snicker at his name. This is the birth date, number 83, for John Cleese, a wonderful British actor and a very funny man as well. Singer Lee Greenwood, God bless the USA. From Ghostbusters and Stripes and so many other fine movies, producer-director Ivan Reitman, he is 76 today. Actress, model, sportscaster Jane Kennedy, 71. From the group Duran Duran, Simon Le Bon is 64 today. President Trump's second wife, Marla Maples, turns 59. Blogger Matt Drudge, who has lost a lot of his edge, 56 years old. TV personality Kelly Osbourne, 38 today. From the Goldbergs, Troy Gentile is 29. And from General Hospital and the CW's All-American, Samantha Logan, 26. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 27th day of October as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say... Happy birthday to you!
And just a reminder, coming up Sunday on many of these stations, our 2-hour presentation of Orson Welles' 1938 classic, War of the Worlds. And in that 2-hour classic, not only do we present the entire presentation, we also present the only recorded exchange between Orson Welles and the author of the book, H.G. Wells. That's all coming up on Sunday on most of these fine radio stations. Right now, the story of Dr. Kildare on this Thursday, October 27th, 1950. That's up next here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you can get both, why not? Especially when it comes to health care. And that's MediShare. You get both. The typical family saves $500 a month switching to MediShare. And that's huge. But it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. It's because MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge PPO network, so yeah, really, you could save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. If you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number you need. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. And now, an episode of The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore, from 72 years ago, October 27th, 1950, Mr. Ling Refusing Leg Surgery.
The Story of Dr. Kildare.
Whatsoever house I enter, there will I go for the benefit of the sick. For whatsoever things I see or hear concerning the life of men, I will keep silence thereon, counting such things to be held as sacred trust. I will exercise my art solely for the cure of my...
The Story of Dr. Kildare, starring lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer brought you those famous motion pictures. Now this exciting, heartwarming series is heard on radio. Now, the Story of Dr. Kildare, starring lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Blair General Hospital, one of the great citadels of American medicine. A clump of gray-white buildings planted deep in the heart of New York. The nerve center of medical progress, where great minds and skilled hands wage man's everlasting battle against death and disease. Blair General Hospital, where life begins, where life ends, where life goes on.
Jimmy, there's only one type of problem case in medicine that a doctor can't do anything about. And that's the problem of the patient himself.
Well, it's a little hard to imagine a case without a patient, Dr.
I
Gillespie.
mean the patient who won't cooperate.
Oh.
No, I can quote you one example after another, right from my own practice. Well, way back in 1934, there was a...
All right, I'll buy it. This is one of those discussions that could last for hours, but I've got a night off, and I've got a date.
Ooh, well now, it's different. Miss Werner, Jimmy, huh?
That's right. Hello, Diana.
Hi, Jimmy.
Well, Miss Werner, come in. Come right in.
Well, I don't want to interrupt anything, but, Jimmy, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Leaving right this minute?
Now, wait a minute. Wait. I want to look at this young lady.
It's a new dress, Dr. Gillespie. Like it?
Yes, indeed I do.
Pardon me, Doctor.
All right, Parker, spit it out. What do you want?
Well, if I may, I'd like a word with Dr. Kildare.
Of course, Parker. What is it?
Well, I don't know exactly, but anyway, there's a man out here to see you.
Well, I was just leaving.
Well, he says it's important, Dr. Kildare. His name's Eddie Chun.
Eddie?
Who the tarnation's Eddie Chun?
Well, you remember Dr. Gillespie? He runs the Moon Temple Inn down in Chinatown.
Oh, yes.
Send him in, Parker.
All right, Dr. Kildare.
Sorry, Diana, but it shouldn't take long just to find out what he wants.
Just go right in, Mr. Chun.
1,000 thank yous.
Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Greetings, firstborn, and many respects to you, old philosopher.
Mr. Chun?
This is Miss Werner.
Hello.
I'm honored. Jimmy, by all tradition, we should continue these formalities for 20 or 30 minutes, but...
Yes, I agree with you.
My grandfather, I fear, will not be so modern when you talk with him. It's about him that I've come.
Oh?
He's dying, Jimmy.
Oh, from what cause?
2, actually. You may not have known, but he suffered injuries in an auto wreck 6 months ago. His health has declined steadily ever since. And the second reason is that he's decided to die.
Well, Jimmy, there's a case for you.
He has agreed to permit an examination, nothing more. And only if I brought you within the hour. Ling Ko is a very stubborn man.
Ling Ko? Are you a grandson of Ling Ko's?
I have that honor.
Do you know him, Dr. Gillespie?
Oh, for 25 years or more. Well, I haven't seen him lately, though, Jimmy. I'm going with you.
Then you will come, Jimmy.
Well, Diana, it looks as though we're...
Well, I don't see why, Jimmy. We were going out to dinner anyway. Why can't we eat somewhere in Chinatown? Afterwards, I mean.
A very good idea. All right, then we'll all go.
It is assumed this examination is permitted only in deference to excessive arguments by firstborn grandson.
Who is humbly grateful.
I understand, Mr. Ling. Now, take a breath and let it out slowly. That's it.
Examination is permitted, but no treatment, Dr. Kildare. A man should live out his years and accept his fate.
Yes, Mr. Ling. Now, breathe again. Same way.
Jimmy, there's an area here on the upper left leg. Keep the stethoscope on its heart. I'll try some pressure.
All right.
There. Now, any effect?
Wait. Yes, it's slowing down. Well, bradycardia effect.
Well, that's it then.
Yes, let me try the stethoscope over the area you were pressing.
Is most undignified for elderly man to be discussed like pork in marketplace.
Just a second, Mr. Ling. Yes, you can hear the surge. Here, take the stethoscope, Dr. Gillespie.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Ling, I gather this leg was rather badly injured in that car wreck. Is that right?
Very badly, Dr. Kildare.
Well, that settles it, Jimmy. And I'd say there are enough collateral channels open to justify immediate surgery.
Might this unworthy one inquire result of examination?
Well, Mr. Ling, you have an arteriovenous aneurysm, the result of those leg injuries.
Indeed. Is most gratifying to know cause of one's death.
Death? Oh, who said you're going to die? Kildare'll fix you up.
Examination is permitted, treatment no.
Well, why do you feel that way about it, Mr. Ling?
These eyes have seen many years, Dr. Kildare. This heart leans now toward old friends who are gone. This brain has advice no longer for the young. To live beyond one's time is improper. One loses face.
Ah, you're no older than I am.
Each must make his own decision, Dr. Gillespie.
But you have another possible 15 to 20 years, Mr. Ling, if you want them.
To old men, one passion is permitted, gambling. To cling to life only that one may indulge such foolish pursuit is unseemly. One loses face. Better to make way for the young.
Mr. Ling, I don't know what to say to you.
I know how you feel, Jimmy. What can you say? Usually when you find an attitude like his, there's some reason for it.
That's right, Diana. Ordinarily, the patient's life is messed up emotionally, or he's suffering such pain that he wants to die. But not Ling Ko. He's entirely philosophical about it.
There should be some way of convincing him. It's such a waste to do nothing but just sit and wait for it.
This one hopes that you and Miss Werner are finding our cuisine satisfactory, Jimmy.
Oh, wonderful, Eddie. Good deal more satisfactory than your grandfather's attitude.
Jimmy, what can one do? He's accustomed to giving advice, not taking it. I hope Dr. Gillespie was not offended.
Oh, no, he just thought he should get back to the hospital. You never can get him to eat at this time of night.
Jimmy, what is wrong with my grandfather?
Well, it's a combination of effects from that leg injury. You see, normally a blood supply is carried by the arteries from the heart to all the tissues of the leg and is then returned to the heart through the veins. But that injury of your grandfather short-circuited an artery and a vein high up in his leg.
I see. Or I think I do.
Well, there are enough collateral channels open to keep the lower leg alive, but the main circulation is passing through the short circuit. The heart has to beat faster to handle the increase in fluid, and that raises the blood pressure. It's a vicious circle, and it goes on building up until something gives way. Usually the heart.
I see. How long do you think?
About a month, Eddie.
And yet, through surgery, he could be cured.
Oh, yes, by eliminating the short circuit. I've seen amazing recoveries, sometimes in a matter of days.
Life does have its ironies. And now it is time for my big surprise. The cook has prepared special for you, sui chi yuck.
Sounds terrific, doesn't it?
Oh, you have to like it, Jimmy, or the cook loses face. Pardon me now.
Uh-huh.
He's awfully nice, Jimmy.
Eddie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's great.
And I love this place. Do I sound silly if I say it's romantic?
No, as a matter of fact, it is romantic.
Moon Temple Inn. Even the name, it's like pagoda bells and pear blossoms.
Yeah, it is.
Jimmy, what are you thinking about?
Well, Ling Ko.
Oh.
You know, there may be a way of changing his mind. It's a chance, anyway.
What do you mean?
Have you ever heard of saving a life by threatening a face?
No.
Of course you wouldn't. Neither have I. But I think it's worth trying.
Oh, good morning, Dr. Gillespie. You have an appointment in 10 minutes.
Parker, where's Kildare?
How should I know?
He hasn't been around the hospital all morning. For all I know, he didn't even come in last night.
Oh, maybe he had too much Chinese food.
Too much Chinese aneurysm.
I just think it's a crying shame that Mr. Ling Ko's taking that attitude.
Well, now, old Snoopy's finding out about cases before they even come to the hospital.
I am not. I mean, I just hear things, that's all.
I'll bet you do, Biggie.
Oh.
Good morning, Dr. Gillespie.
Well, Jimmy,
Parker.
hello.
Morning.
I was just preparing your description for the Missing Persons Bureau.
Oh, I had to go out on a case, rather the preliminaries to a case. By the way, I've decided to use cryotherapy in that operation on Ling Ko's leg. See, by packing the leg in ice, I can slow the metabolism and reduce the possibility of any kind
What
of...
makes you think you'll even have a chance to operate?
Oh, well, that's all taken care of. That's what Eddie Chun and I were doing this morning. Here, take a look.
Chinatown News. I can't read this stuff.
Neither can I, but I have a translation of the item Eddie managed to have planted in this morning's edition.
What are you talking about?
Now, let's see. Reads, quote, "It is a great misfortune when an elderly scholar, long honored for his wisdom and understanding, chooses voluntary oblivion rather than face the problems of life."
Think I know where Kildare's going. The Story of Dr. Kildare, October 27th, 1950. The news from 72 years ago next. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station, an episode of The Story of Dr. Kildare, as it was originally broadcast Friday, October 27th, 1950. In the newspapers of that Friday, 72 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The government yesterday issued an unexpectedly harsh order banning construction of new amusement and recreational facilities such as theaters, racetracks, and nightclubs effective at midnight last night. At the same time, manufacturers of household appliances and radio and television sets were warned they may have to reduce their use of nickel, copper, and aluminum as much as 30% below last year to conserve vital metals for the defense effort. A communist Chinese Liberation Army has crossed a disputed frontier zone and knifed into Tibet, that according to dispatches from Calcutta and various communist capitals. It was announced in Peiping Tuesday that such an invasion had been ordered, quoting, to free the 3 million inhabitants of Tibet, a primitive priest-ruled land isolated by the Himalayas, and to, quoting again, strengthen the national western frontiers of China. The assignment was reportedly given the 2nd Chinese Field Army. 29 American prisoners of war shot, bayoneted, and burned to death by their North Korean captors last Monday in an area 60 miles north of Pyongyang, that according to an American medical officer. Meanwhile, a South Korean spearhead pulled up at the banks of the Yalu River on the Manchurian border yesterday, that amid increasing indication that Chinese Reds had entered the Korean War. United Press correspondent Glenn Stackhouse reporting from the northwestern Korean front that forces opposing both the 1st and 6th South Korean divisions were issuing orders over their field radios in Chinese rather than Korean. A high intelligence source agreed today that Chinese communist troops probably were in North Korea. President Truman said yesterday he's thinking of calling Congress back into session before November 27th to deal with rent control, an excess profit tax, and other legislation, including statehood for Alaska and Hawaii. He wouldn't say, however, whether the call may be issued before Election Day. Congress itself has set the November 27th date for reassembling. Some Republicans say the president would be playing politics if he set the date ahead and made the announcement before the November 7th election. Military chiefs of the 12 North Atlantic Treaty Nations recommended with urgency last night that a supreme commander to direct the common defense of Western Europe be set up without delay. The announcement came a few hours after the White House disclosed that General Dwight D. Eisenhower, often mentioned as a likely choice for the post, will probably confer with President Truman this weekend. Joan Streitmeyer, 17, a ward at the Chicago Home for Girls, is going to have a church wedding with all the trimmings. Joan, who is to wed Edwin Lascilly, 25, next Saturday, planned a simple wedding but dreamed of a church ceremony. Through the generosity of friends, a gown and other necessities were provided to make her dream wedding come true. Joan, starry-eyed, says she can't believe it. President of General Motors, C.E. Wilson, called yesterday for a temporary 45-hour work week to boost defense production without cutting consumer goods. Wilson addressed the American Society of Metals in Chicago, saying, "When the emergency is over or our military reserves have been built up to a safe point, we can then reduce taxes and restore the 40-hour week." A former mental patient arrested yesterday in connection with the dynamiting of a Voice of America radio tower in Ohio. 39-year-old Herman Floyd Kinner, a stocky carpenter and ex-soldier from Wilmington, Ohio, charged with setting off the blast at Mason, Ohio, September 17th. The FBI said he readily admitted causing the explosion, but gave no motive except that he heard voices all talking at the same time. There is no evidence to link Kinner or with any sabotage plot or subversive group. Though some of the day's top news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Friday, October 27th, 1950, on your radio, the story of Dr. Kildare, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Now, wait a minute.
It has been wisely said that cowardice is one of the unforgivable faults, unquote. Well, there it is. Eddie thinks it'll work.
Work? How?
It's a matter of Oriental philosophy. You see, if Ling Ko were to follow through with his decision after this, he'd lose face with his friends. And to a Chinese traditionalist, that's a fate worse than death.
Jimmy, you're out of your mind.
Maybe. Anyway, Eddie agrees with me, and he ought to know. I've tentatively scheduled an operating room for day after tomorrow.
It'll never work.
I'll get it. Miss Parker speaking. Yes, just a moment. It's for you, Dr. Kildare. Mr. Ling Ko's calling.
Uh-oh. Like to arrange for an ambulance, Dr. Gillespie? Kildare speaking.
Dr. Kildare, most unfortunate thing done by you and unworthy grandson, Eddie Chun.
Oh. Well, I think the end justifies the means.
Means will lead to no end, Dr. Kildare. Later edition of paper carries message from this unworthy one saying, when man makes 99 good decisions, is wise to accept 100th decision without question.
Yes, that's fine.
Many friends have already sent assurances of high regard.
Then you won't permit an operation?
Is hoped that you and Dr. Gillespie will attend funeral when notified.
But, Mr. Ling,
Good day, Dr. Kildare.
Apparently it didn't work, Jimmy.
No. The whole thing backfired.
We return to the story of Dr. Kildare in just a moment.
October 27th, 1950, the story of Dr. Kildare on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll wrap up this week of Classic Radio Theater on Friday with an episode of Crime Classics from 69 years ago, October 28, 1953, the historic story about John Hayes, his head, and how they were parted. Mr. Hayes returns from war to his lovely wife to find her a frolic with two comely boarders. His head is shortly thereafter found by the side of the Thames River and then encapsulated in a glass jar. That's coming up on Friday's Classic Radio Theater, a little jolly, lighthearted story. And it's true. That'll be coming up on Friday, but now the conclusion of the story of Dr. Kildare, October 27th, 1950.
Now we continue with the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Hello, Parker.
Oh, Dr. Kildare, there's a patient waiting to see you.
New one or an old one?
Well, a new one, I think. Her name's San Chun.
June? Must be related to Eddie.
Well, she filled out a card here, so... Oh, here it is. Yes, husband Eddie Chun. She's his wife.
Wonder what's wrong with her.
Well, I'm not a diagnostician, Dr. Kildare. But...
Oh, that's it, huh? Maybe I'd better see her as soon as I get it.
Confounded tarnation.
You know, Parker, there's one thing about Dr. Gillespie. He never loses his sunny disposition.
Staff conference. If there's any more asinine method of wasting time, I've never heard of it. Parker, who's the girl in the outer office?
No, just a patient of Dr. Kildare's.
Oh, interesting case, Jimmy.
Well, might turn out to be. She's a granddaughter-in-law of Ling Ko's.
Oh, you don't say so. Well, what seems to be the trouble?
Oh?
Complaints, symptoms. She must have some reason for coming here, hasn't she?
Oh, yes. She had a reason, all right, but I doubt if she has a complaint. Or does she, Parker?
No. She seems quite happy about it, Dr. Kildare.
Well, then I think we can...
Wait a minute. You haven't even examined her.
No, not yet.
You're merely accepting Parker's half-baked opinion.
Well...
Why, she wouldn't know a hypochondriac from a hypodermic unless somebody told her.
Well, after 25 years around here, I can at least recognize a pregnancy case when I see one.
Pregnancy? Oh, that's what it is.
So I'm led to believe.
I thought it might be something interesting.
Now, there's a jaundiced attitude for you. What could be more interesting than birth? New life replacing the old, wondering whether it'll be a boy or a...
What's the matter, Jimmy?
Maybe an idea there.
Where?
Are you free this evening, Dr. Gillespie?
No, confound it, no. Why?
I thought you might enjoy an evening of Chinese checkers.
Huh?
It's all right, though. I'd rather take Diana anyway.
What the tarnation are you talking about?
Hello, Sally. I'd like to speak with Mr. Ling Ko. His phone number is,
I'm still betting on you, Jimmy. This time, I think you're going to win.
Your move, Dr. Kildare.
All right. There.
Ah, yes. This piece, then, is moved so. Your left flank is stopped.
Oh.
Let's try this. Your move, Mr. Ling?
A highly commendable attempt, but with this move, your right flank is stopped, Dr. Kildare.
So it is. Well, there isn't too much choice, so,
Ah, yes, indeed. And now, at this point, it would seem most dignified for a worthy opponent to concede.
Not only dignified, inevitable. I concede.
I thought sure you had him that time, Jimmy.
When youth vows to experience, no honor is lost. The wise parent often learns from the child his regret of this old one that he will not live to see firstborn son of Chun.
Son? Well, I hate to disappoint you, but Mrs. Chun is going to have a girl.
1,000 pardons for contradictions, Dr. Kildare. Horoscope has been cast. Child will be a boy.
Oh, no, there's really no doubt about it. You see, this is a subject that's in my field. In fact, I'll bet on it.
Is policy of this unworthy one never to decline wager? Name amount, please.
Well, staff doctors aren't exactly overpaid. Say $50?
Is done. All arrangements will be made.
And, of course, they'll have to include an operation on that leg. Otherwise, you won't be here to pay me when the baby is born.
That is meaning of arrangements, Dr. Kildare.
Oh?
$50 will be left in bank with full instructions.
Left flank stopped. I'd think, though, that a man of strong gambling instincts would surely want to know the outcome of the bet. Just curiosity, if nothing else.
Outcome is already known. Child will be a son.
Right flank stopped.
As for attraction in living, to hold great-grandson in arms, must advise Ling Ko has already 9 great-grandchildren. is no novelty. Your move, Dr. Kildare.
Move? What move? For the second time, Mr. Ling, I concede.
Jimmy, I put a lot of thought on this case during the last week, and I've come to the conclusion that the only way to get Ling Ko to submit to surgery is by starting with a full acceptance of his attitude and then using that attitude.
And just how do I go about doing that?
This is just the trouble. In the first place, he's already suspicious of you. And in the second place, you're just too confounded young.
Which brings us right around the bush to the place we started from.
And leaves old Ling Ko on his way to a funeral complete with firecrackers and rice cakes.
And I guess all I could do under the circumstances is go down to my office and try to grow older as quickly as possible.
No, I didn't mean that, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know you didn't. Well, see you later.
Confounded tarnation. Parker! Parker!
What on earth's wrong with you, Dr. Gillespie?
Nothing's wrong with me. Call a taxi.
What do you want a taxi for? You're not going out, are you?
Of course not. I'm merely going to bring it up here and dissect it.
What?
Now get out of here and get me a taxi.
It's strange how life seems to balance, Dr. Gillespie, one thing against another when one grows very old.
You know, that's one thing young Kildare can't understand. The passions grow cold, as someone said, and then philosophy grows out of the ashes.
Is same with young members of Ling family. They make the days noisy with wailings and pleas. This old one can find little peace.
Well, they just don't understand how we can look at things differently. See? They're too young. No, same way with Kildare. He's a good doctor, all right, but sometimes his enthusiasm runs away with him.
He has been most insistent.
Yeah, sure. He's thoroughly convinced the operation should be tried, even if there's only one chance in 100 you'll live through it.
Was understood operation is quite simple.
Oh, no, it's a long way from simple.
Huh?
Kildare simply can't get it through his head that man might want to be left alone, live out his days in peace.
Is feared there will be no peace. Relatives are most troublesome.
Yes, too bad they won't let a man enjoy his last 2 or 3 weeks in calmness and meditation.
Would cause them much happiness if this old one should submit to operation.
Oh, yeah, I suppose it would.
Dr. Kildare also.
Oh.
Please inform him operation will be performed tomorrow morning.
You mean you tomorrow morning? Well, by the great horn spoon.
Oh, come in, Dr. Gillespie.
Well, Jimmy, I understand the surgery was a complete success.
Your stooges certainly don't waste any time.
Stooges? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, was it or wasn't it?
It was. Dr. Gillespie, I still don't know how you got him to do it. I mean, change his mind.
Well, it was merely a matter of the old understanding the old.
Hands across the sea, huh?
And, of course, an application of Oriental psychology.
Tell me more, Doctor.
After all, you know, there's more than one way of skinning a cat.
Could be. Only where does Oriental psychology come in? That's not a Chinese proverb.
Well, now, Jimmy, I wouldn't be too sure of that. You want to bet?
And now, once again, the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres as Dr. Kildare and Lionel-Barrymore as Dr. Gillespie.
Good evening, most honorable friends.
Evening.
Good evening.
Trust everything is satisfactory.
Fine,
Wonderful.
Mr. Ling.
You're looking very well, Mr. Ling.
Have never felt better in entire life, Dr. Kildare. Is feared this unworthy one faces prospect of many years more living.
Oh, no, isn't that too bad? What an unpleasant prospect.
Prospect is not too displeasing, Dr. Gillespie. Dr. Kildare, is of course most impolite to remind you of occasion for this banquet. However...
Yes, I know. Eddie Chun double-crossed me and had a son. And I owe you $50. Here you are.
1,000 thank yous, Dr. Kildare. Dr. Gillespie, is thought of this old one that you might enjoy a game of Chinese checkers in quiet alcove across room?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Of course, I've never played the game.
Is very simple. Young people will excuse old ones.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
We'll have dishes sent over. This way, Dr. Gillespie. After you have learned game, perhaps small wagers could be made.
Oh, sure, Mr. Ling. Yeah, why not?
You suppose I ought to warn him?
What good would it do? He's stubborn enough to bet anyway.
Sure he would. Well, he'll just have to learn for himself.
So, then let's talk about us.
Oh, not us. You. About how you look in that gown, the way you're wearing your hair, and your eyes, and that smile that's just now breaking through.
It sounds awfully nice, Jimmy. For a start.
Good. Then what do you say we go on from there?
You have just heard the story of Dr. Kildare, starring Lew-ayres and Lionel-Barrymore. This program was written by Les Crutchfield and directed by William P. Russo. Original music was composed and conducted by Walter Schumann. Supporting cast included Virginia Gregg, Georgia Ellis, Tudor Owen, and Paul Frees. Dick Joy speaking.
October 27th, 1950, The Story of Dr. Kildare here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows on demand, learn more about our Classic Radio Theater collecting. You can build a collection of your own. You can contact me there. You can find places where our shows are available for download by a podcast. You can find our social media links. You can contact me. You can buy me a coffee. That buy me a coffee money goes toward building our classic radio collection to bring you more exciting shows. And don't forget, Sunday, set your dial. Sunday, we will have for you on Classic Radio Theater, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. Have yourself a great day. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.